Amen. Amen. You excited to be in church this morning? Awesome. I'm so glad that you are. We're in this series, and I entitled this message, Don't Rock the Boat. So if you're writing title, you can write that down, Don't Rock the Boat, or you can follow on YouVersion as well. All our notes are on there as well. I don't know if you've ever gotten desperate before. Anybody ever got desperate before? Yeah, okay. So, desperate for, it could be desperate for anything. Desperate for a drink, you're thirsty or whatever. But when you really get to that desperate moment, that's where all the masks come off. And that's where the realness starts happening. Parents, when you get desperate, when your kids are acting a fool, and you just say things that you normally wouldn't say, but it's because the realness is starting to come up. Come on, everybody. I know we're in church, but you can tell the truth. Lord have mercy. Just desperation pulls something out of you. And it makes you become more real, and it makes you actually become more authentic and more touchable. It's really important in your relationship with God. Desperation is really the start of some really good things in your life. When you come to God and you're desperate, there's some stuff that comes into your life. I remember when I was I just graduated high school, and I was on a mission trip with a bunch of guys. We were going to go on a mission trip right after high school before we went to college. So we're on this mission trip. It was in 1996. We went to Atlanta, Georgia, where the Olympics were happening. We were doing some work with a mission organization there. And there's about 800 of us that came together all across the nation. And we came to this one school, and that's where we were staying in this school over the summer. And but they were really nice to the girls. They let the girls have all the showers inside the school. And then for the guys, our showers were on top of the school building with in these little 2x4 made dividers with just plastic and a garden hose that ran across the top with holes poked in it, because they basically were like, guys are disgusting and they'll wash themselves in anything, which is kind of true. And so but we kind of thought, hey, that's cool. You get up to, how many people get to take a shower on top of a school? And so we were up there, we were taking a shower, and all of a sudden this huge storm rolled in. And we thought, this is the best thing in the world. We turned off all the water and took a shower in the storm. How cool is that? I mean, well, only the guys think that's cool. Girls are like, that's gross. You can't have any water pressure to wash my hair. That's nasty. I didn't have to worry about it. And so we're showering. It was all cool until a huge wind gust came by, blew the whole shower thing off the roof. Off the roof. I don't know if you've ever been standing naked, looking at other naked people, wondering, what do we do now? That's what I was doing. It was the worst, most awkward, we're all on top of a school. What are we going to do? And then, to make matters worse, we then all realized all of our clothes and towels flew away with that thing. They're all on the ground. So we're naked up here forever. What? So literally, when they heard this big commotion, when the thing fell down our team leader walked out, was looking oh my gosh, they blew. And then he said there was 9 heads over the top of the school looking over and saying, we need help. Help. I mean, and they're like, what? And I just was, just telling the truth. I'm naked and I need help. That's what I said. So, you just get desperate. When you're desperate, you say what you really mean when you're desperate. And I was thinking about that story when I was thinking about this moment with Jonah. In Jonah chapter 1, verse 5, he's on this boat, and these sailors are desperate. So Jonah chapter 1, verse 5, if you're following along, you can read here. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted out to their gods for help, and threw the cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But all this time, Jonah was sound asleep down in the hold. Verse 6 says, so the captain went down after him. How can you sleep at a time like this? He shouted, "Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he will pay attention to us and spare our lives." So these sailors are in this moment. Jonah's in this moment. They're all on this ship, and all of a sudden everything is become desperation because of this storm. We know why the storm is coming. God is trying to get Jonah's attention, and Jonah's doing a really good job of trying to push God's hand away, but God is trying to get his attention. And as this is happening, now the sailors are caught in this power struggle, and so the sailors, they don't know what's going on. All they know is their lives are in danger, and so much so that they're yelling to their gods, and they're throwing stuff overboard. And when you start getting desperate, you shout and throw things. When you get desperate, you shout and throw things. In your life, this is what happens. How you shout is this. See, the sailors were shouting to their gods, and they were trying to get some relief from gods who would not answer them. We're not so much different. We shout to different gods, but they might not be the gods that you would think of in the Bible back then. They're different gods like money. They're different gods like jobs. They're different gods like time and status and stuff and relationships. And if I could just get one drink, that's going to make me feel better. Or maybe I get 10 drinks and that's going to make me feel better. Or maybe if I have this relationship over here, and then once I get what I need from that, then I'll go to this relationship over here. And we keep screaming out to certain gods that we think are going to help us. And I'm going to let you know, and I'm just going to remind myself again, that none of those things will ever help you. None of those things will ever pull you out of a storm. None of those things will ever pull you out of a dark pit when you feel like you've got nothing else to go to. Do not start yelling don't run to the donut shop and give me all your donuts right now, because that's going to help me feel. No, it actually, we all know that all that stuff makes you feel worse. After you get whatever you want that you think that's going to make you, once you get the promotion that you think is going to give you all the status that you need to make you feel good about yourself, once you get there, you realize this didn't fix anything in my life. And you start running to the next, to the next, to the next. Listen, that's the same thing that these sailors were doing. They were yelling to their gods, trying to get some relief when they were feeling like their life was getting ripped apart. And I want to let you know, only the God of heaven can give you the relief that you need. Only the God of heaven can reach into your soul and change the things from the inside that you're trying so well to change on the outside. We just start yelling sometimes. But let me, before you get too pious, realize that if you hear somebody yelling, they're yelling because they're hurting. They're yelling because they're hurting. And it's really important that we realize that. When Jess and I we were getting Watson ready. We're going somewhere, and Jess is like the queen of like finding shoes for kids for like 50 cents. She's like so good, and they look good too, and it's awesome. And so she's like, he's wearing these shoes, and I'm like, he's got more shoes than me. Like this kid, he just started walking, and she's like, he's gonna wear these shoes today. All right, that's awesome. So we put these shoes on, and a little while after this, now Watson's like pretty even keel. He doesn't like yell a lot. I mean, he yells like a normal kid and cries and stuff, but like all of a sudden he's like going nuts. He's like screaming and just inconsolable, and like we're doing everything and anything we can to like get him to stop. I don't know if you've ever, as parents, ever felt like when they're in the baby stage where they can't talk and all they can do is cry. You break all your parenting rules just to get them to be quiet. There's no judgment in this church, just so you know. If you've done some weird things that you wouldn't let anybody know with your kids just to get them quiet, we don't judge you. We just commiserate with you because we know that stuff is real. You're on the streets out there. You got to get out there and fix that stuff with your kids, and everybody else is looking at you like you're crazy, and we don't think you're crazy at all. We just think you're MacGyver with your kids. You just fix it, and you just figure out how to do it. We're doing all that stuff with Watson. Nothing is doing anything. He is crying. Finally, Jess is like, oh, let's try the shoes. And and there was something with the shoes that was pinching him. This whole time, I know you sound like the worst parent, right? It's like, I know you can kind of judge me a little bit. It's fine. And so we undid the shoes and everything, and then after that, he was fine. But what I was thinking about was like the reason he was crying that much and that loud, because there was a reason. And people are the same way. People are the same way. When people are all acting a fool, and getting all crazy, just remind yourself again that they're hurting. That's why they're doing that. That's why they're yelling. That's why it's the bar every night. That's why it's this relationship and then this relationship and this relationship and this that is why that all they see is dollar signs. That is why they are so preoccupied with their job that they can't see their family. That is why that they keep looking to this thing, to this thing, to this thing, to give me this status, to give me this status, to give me this status, because they're actually hurting on the inside. But church, I want to let you know that it's not good for us as a church just to try to get them to be quiet. Just like we were trying to shush Watson and, if you could just be quiet. No, there was something wrong with him. That's why he was crying, and that's why people are crying. And I'm wondering if sometimes as a church, we try to shush people before we really understand what's going on in their life. And we would actually like them to live a life that looks like a Christian on the outside, but is still hurting on the inside. And what we end up with is a bunch of quiet people, but not a bunch of healed people. And what we need to do is understand there's a reason behind what you're doing, and there's some healing that needs to happen in your life, and there's some stuff that's going on in your life. And these sailors that are chucking everything out, then the reason they're yelling out to their gods is because they don't know the one true God. They don't know who made them. They don't know who's causing this. They don't even know the reason that's happening. As we're reading this story, we know, but they didn't know. I'm wondering if a church can make sure that we don't keep shushing people and saying, just be quiet, sit in the back, act like a Christian, but we don't really care what happens on the inside of your heart. We don't really care what happens when we don't hear what you're doing. It just doesn't, it makes for a church that looks like a church, but doesn't feel like a church. So when you walk into church, and I'm praying this for our church, when people walk into our church, they feel us before they even hear or hear us or talk or any. They just feel something on the, not because we're so great and we're so good and all that, but they actually feel the Spirit of God that has changed people from one thing to another, that have been healed because of the Spirit of God. That's what I'm praying for our church. Not only did they yell, but they also threw some stuff. They actually threw all the cargo that they had on their ship. They just threw all that cargo, just started chucking it. The reason that they were actually on the ocean was because of that cargo. But all of a sudden now they're chucking. I want you to see this. They're throwing stuff overboard, but they're not really throwing stuff. They're throwing their purpose overboard. And I wonder how many people, when they go through a storm, the first thing that they start throwing to lighten their load is their purpose. They start throwing their purpose. They start throwing the call of God off of them. I can't serve in church. I can't be the leader God's called me to be. I can't dream those dreams anymore. All that stuff feels so weighty on me. And they start chucking things that they never should chuck. And they start throwing things thinking that this is going to make it lighter and this is going to make it easier. And I understand, taking some time, or I understand getting your heart right or all that kind of stuff. I totally get that. But I'm also saying on the other side of this, can you just go with me and understand this piece? That there's some parts and there's some times that there's some times where you need some healing so you can serve right and be right and lead right. There are definitely times for that. And there's also definitely times where we've been caught chucking our purpose because we think that that's going to lighten our load in our life. And it's not going to help us at all. Because you know what? We can't fix our storm. We can't fix some of us are thinking that we can fix our own storms. you know what? Your load has nothing to do with this storm. You know that? Your load has nothing to do with this storm. God is doing this thing. And you know what? You're going to be saved. You don't even know you're going to be saved, but you're going to be saved. And it has nothing to do with you throwing the cargo off. I wonder if these sailors, after this stuff, when Jonah got picked up by the whale and there was no storm anymore, I wonder if the sailors like, who is the idiot who threw off all the cargo? We really could have used that. You know, like, do you know your storm's going to end? Your storm is going to end. There's some stuff that you're fighting with, but don't throw your purpose out when you're going through something hard. Don't remove the calling of God on your life because you're going through something hard. It's not gonna last forever. It's not going to last forever. I promise you this. If you walked in here, you need to hear one thing. Your storm's not going to last forever. The thing that you're going through is not going to last forever. It is going to end, and you're going to be okay. So you got these guys that are walking through all of this, and the only person that could give them relief and the only person that can give them answers is who? Jonah. What's he doing? Sleeping. Taking a nap. During this huge storm, so much so that the captain runs out and says, What are you doing? We're about to be ripped apart. Like he can't believe it. And I want all of us to remind ourselves again when our boat is rocked that we don't get rocked to sleep. Because there's a point that when your life starts getting rocked that there's some things in your life that starts rocking you to go to sleep when you shouldn't be going to sleep. And I would also say too that notice that when Jonah really felt like he was, just so you know, sometimes we make Jonah the bad guy, but I want to remind us that to Jonah, he wasn't the bad guy. He was being picked on by God. Okay, so just remember that. Like, we all think we're not the bad guy in our story. You know? It's hard for us sometimes to understand. But I just want you to see, too, Jonah didn't think this. Jonah just knew he was running from God because he felt like God was picking on him and he doing something that was absolutely out of character for God to ask him to do. And so Jonah, when he's going through this, what he does is he starts removing himself from any kind of relationship. And he goes down to, there wasn't like napping buddies or anything. It was him by himself. Napping buddy, if you like napping buddies, that's fine. We're not judging you, but it's weird. And so you go down there by yourself, go to sleep, and this is a picture of people sometimes who are hurting. They feel like the way that they can get healing faster is by drawing a smaller circle, and by not trusting as many people, and by not opening up their life to other people. And I would say, if you're hurting, I understand how that feels so natural, but I would also say that is naturally wrong. That you lean that way. When you start drawing smaller circles and not opening up your heart, it actually hurts you more. And it actually pulls you out of the situation that you shouldn't be pulled out of anyway. And so I would encourage you, as hard as it is, even when you feel like you're going through something really hard, draw bigger circles. Open up your heart to more people. Open up your heart. Well, what if they hurt me? And what if I just don't trust easily? Well, you know what? Yeah, trust is hard and trust is earned. But just because you get burned a couple times does not mean that's always going to happen. But I will tell you what will happen. If you continually draw a smaller circle, pretty soon the only person that can fit in your circle is you. And so you just, because everybody will make mistakes at some point. And then you shouldn't put the pressure on everybody to be perfect, to be just like Jesus, because there's only one Savior, and that's Jesus, and that's not any one of us. And so you got to open up bigger circles. So Jonah missed this all entirely. He's by himself. He's sleeping. And then I started to think, what is he sleeping on? He's sleeping not on just a pillow, and he's not sleeping on his own calling. He's he's sleeping on all these people that are in the boat that need his help so desperately. I wonder if Jonah, if he could wake up a little bit and hear the cries of people screaming out for their life. They've got sailors and they've got a captain who is trying to make it, they feel like their life is about to end, but Jonah's just sleeping. I wonder if our church sometimes, and I wonder if churches in general sometimes are sleeping on the people that they should be hearing and they should be listening to. And I wonder if we would, I wonder too if some of us feel like we've just, we grew up in the Bible Belt and we're in Oklahoma and we're in Texas and I guess in Tulsa and Broken Arrow we got enough churches and everybody that wants to go to church can go to church. And I wonder, I think everybody is okay, and we start getting too much sleepiness in our spirit so we can't hear the cries of actual people that are living in our city right now, that are hurting, that are dying, that are wondering, can anybody hear me because my marriage is falling apart? Can anybody hear me because my soul feels like it's dead? Can anybody hear me because I'm in depression that feels like it's going to swallow up my heart? Can anybody hear me? And all of a sudden, the church is just starting to sleep on things that we should be waking up to. For Jess and I, when we had Watson, when he was a little baby, I mean little, when he just came home with us, which, by the way, you feel like they should send a nurse home with you. When that first happened. Where is Lexie here? Is she here? Lexie? Oh, Lexie's right there. Okay, Lexie was Watson's nurse in the hospital. She is amazing. She made Jess and I feel like we weren't going to make any mistakes ever. She was so great. And I was like telling Jess, can't Lexie just come like for a couple days, just hang, because we don't know nothing. Because you just don't feel like you know anything. And we came home, and especially when at night, when you put the baby to bed, you're like, is he sleeping or is he dead? And you just kind of look, new parents, you realize this. Parents who've been a parent for a while, you're like, oh, I remember that. You put your finger under their nose to try to get a little breath. You kind of like really stare at their stomach. Oh, it went up. Okay. We're good. And if they make one peep, when you're sleeping, you are up in a what? They're dying. Call hospital. Jess and I were like that. Then we're like, no, he just turned. Okay, let's go. You go to bed. That's what happened at the beginning. What happens now is when he wakes up in the morning with screams and yells and sometimes cries and sometimes weird baby songs, whatever we hear, we literally don't move. I'm going to tell him myself. What I do is I turn my head like this. And I look with one eye to see if she's moving. If Jess moves for a moment, I go like this. So she thinks I'm sleeping. So she will go up and get the baby. That's what but she's doing the same thing to me. I know it. I feel it in my spirit that she's doing the same thing to me. It really is a bunch of, it's like, baby chicken. You're just like, who's going to blink first and who's going to have to go get him? And then we go get him. It's a complete change from the first time when we got Watson, one peep, we're out of the bed, to now when he screams, we're like, it's you. No, it's you. No, it's you. And I was thinking, this happens to our church. Remember the first time when you came to Jesus and he changed you and you couldn't help but see other people who needed what you had? And you were running after people to come to church with you, and you couldn't help but pray with somebody even if it felt weird. And your heart was just wrecked for people that were going through stuff that you knew Jesus could save them from. But now I'm sorry to say that I think some of us have gotten to a place now where we hear screams and yells and stuff, and we just try to go back to sleep, and hopefully at some point somebody's going to take care of them. Hopefully at some point somebody's going to do something with them. And I want to let you know that it's not somebody, it's you and it's me. And at some point we've got to get that kind of wake up again and hear things again and care about things again and jump into people's lives, because there's people that are yelling and screaming, Jonah, you're sleeping through a storm that actually is a part of your problem. And there are other people that are going through this. They have no idea how to get out of it. Jonah, you're the only one who can wake up and step into their life. And I'm saying the church is the only thing that can walk in and step into this stuff. I'm saying it's time to stop sleeping and start saying, oh, I wonder if somebody's going to take care of those school shootings. I wonder if somebody's going to take care of our broken government. I wonder if somebody's going to take care of our abortion problems. I wonder if somebody's going to take care of the foster system. I wonder if somebody is going to take care of broken families and broken marriages. I wonder if somebody, no, it's us. We've got to wake up and we've got to get into those lives, and we've got to pay attention and hear the cries again and actually let it affect our heart again. Instead of just going to sleep, instead of just backing down and thinking, you know what, somebody will do something. Somebody will fix something. I'm tired of feeling doom and gloom every time I turn on the news. I'm tired of feeling like there's no answers, but everybody's got questions. I'm tired of feeling like darkness and depression and anger and emotions like that seem like they have no ways out. But we know. We were just here. That worship, life-changing, heart-wrecking, spirit uplifting. Why? Because the presence of God changes you. And that's why it's important to get people in the presence of God. So I don't need people to be a member of some church to come sit in the back and think like they're doing some moral obligation. We need people to get in the presence of God, because that's where it changes you. The presence of God changes you. Jonah, wake up. Stand up. Let them hear what's going on in your life. And I just want to let you know, too, if you feel like people are sleeping on you, know this, that while there might be some people that haven't heard your cries yet, God has heard every one of them. And God's not sleeping on you. And Psalm 121 says this: He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel never slumbers or sleeps. That means God sees everything you're going through right now. He's not sleeping. He's got his eye on you. He sees what you're going through. He sees the things that you're fighting. He sees the things that you're trying to be better. He knows that you're trying to move forward. He knows that you're trying to do the best with what you have. I want to let you know that if you start waking up more and more to the Spirit of God on the inside of you, you're going to hear more, and you're also going to see more of what God is doing in this world and in your life. He sees you. Jess and I were flying not too long ago, and we got in some turbulence, but not like the nice turbulence. You know what I'm talking about? The little shaky, just to let you know you're in an airplane. Like the whole drop, like the one you pay for like money to go on a roller coaster with. Like that was a boom, like that. Now I know there's always like one crazy person or something that like when that happens they like throw their hands up and like, yeah, like they act like it's really cool. All of us regular people, that's not cool. It's not cool in the airplane. Like you're 30,000 feet in the air. I don't need that, like feeling like that. And I don't know if you're like me, but if you're like me, like when that happens, I immediately reach out for something secure. Immediately when that something happens, I'm on my armrest like this. I'm like, come on, bring it on. If this thing sucks me out, at least I'm holding on to this chair. You know, like the weird thoughts that go through your mind that aren't really going to happen, but, you know, you just kind of, you know, preparing for anything. And so, like, immediately I'm grabbing on to something like that. You just reach out for something that's secure. And at this moment, for not only Jonah and also for the sailors and the captain, their ship is being just shaken. Their boat is rocked. They don't know if they're going to make it out alive. Jonah thinks he's going to die. And it's interesting to me that not Jonah, but the captain says something to him in verse 6. He says this. He says, "Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he will pay attention to us and spare our lives." Get up and pray to your God. Translation: when your boat is rocked, reach out for something that's secure. Get up and pray to your God. Some of you have been rocked. Some of you have been you feel like you're going through it. And I want to say the same thing to you. I feel like this is the Spirit of God speaking to your heart. Get up and pray to your God. Get up and pray to your God. Stand up. I know it's not in your own strength. I know it feels so awkward. I know it feels like, how can I even stand when everything else is being shaken? Get up and pray to your God. Reach out for something that's secure. When you go through shaking, when your boat is rocked, reach out for something that's secure. I know that I don't know all the answers. I know I don't have all the answers for all of us. I don't know all the stuff that we're going through and all the stuff that we're facing tomorrow and the stuff that we feel like is piling on our shoulders. But I do know this, that the only security that we can count on is from the Spirit of the living God. And every time that we stand up and every time that we open up our heart and every time we reach out to Him, we grab onto something that is immovable, the Bible says. We grab onto something that cannot be shaken. When everything else is shaken, God cannot be shaken. And so we reach up to God and say, God, when everything else in my world feels like it is topsy-turvy, God, I'm reaching out to you in this moment. You are the one that I hold on to. You are the one that I grab onto. You are the one that I reach out for. And then all of a sudden, while everything else is being shaken, guess what? You are standing steadfast because of the Spirit of God that has grabbed on a hold of you. The strength that only God has. Because the truth is, when you reach out to Him, the Bible says that He's reaching out to you. This verse in Psalm says this: He reached down from heaven and rescued me. He drew me out of deep waters. I don't know if you feel like you're in deep water today, but know that God reached, and it's continually reaching out and grabbing you and pulling you out of deep water. I wonder if the psalmist had this in mind when he was thinking about Jonah. As we reach out to Him, He's reaching out to us, securing us. I don't know if you feel like your boat's being rocked, you're in deep water, you just feel things in your life that you just wish were more stable. Or maybe you feel like you just need to wake up a little bit more. There's some things that you've been sleeping on that you know. Maybe some people that you've been sleeping on that you know that you need to wake up to. And maybe God's starting to knock on your heart to wake up to those things. Wherever you are, this is a moment, church. This is a moment this morning that we can reach out and secure ourselves in who God is. If you would, let's